It's a rainy day in Sarasota, so I'm going to make a rainy day meal from inside the house. No grill today for David. I will make a skillet style teriyaki chicken with veggies, and for a side dish, pearl couscous. Some people call it Israeli couscous or mamarón in Spanish, and I think it's going to be very simple and delicious. I hope you join us. First, we'll begin with the teriyaki marinade that will also become the glaze for the chicken and veggies in the skillet. You'll need some brown sugar. You can use either dark or regular brown sugar, and soy sauce. I use low sodium style. Also some pineapple rings. I will be using 2 because it's just for David and I. The more people you have, the more pineapple you can use. And you want to reserve the juice. That's very important. You could use fresh pineapple as well. Today I'm using canned pineapple and its juice. This is not syrup. Be very careful when you're at the grocery store. Don't buy, for this recipe, pineapple in heavy syrup. Buy it in its juice. And then optionally, if you would like to add the very sugary, sweet, but pretty and tasty red maraschino cherries, you can also use some of that juice if you like to. That's what we will start with. We'll start with adding the brown sugar to a bowl or any kind of dish that you would like to use. For 2 servings of thinly sliced chicken breast, I will use 2 heaping, these are tablespoons, 2 heaping spoonfuls. Maybe I'll add another. The pineapple juice is very tart and citrusy, so that will help cut the sweetness. And I want plenty to glaze the vegetables as well as the chicken. That's the brown sugar. I'll go ahead and add the pineapple juice into the bowl. And then we're going to add the low sodium style soy sauce, but you're welcome to use whatever you like. If you want regular soy sauce, go for it. And I'm using plenty of it, probably about 1/4 of a cup at the most. And then I'm going to stir it together. The sugar will begin to dissolve a bit in that pineapple juice and soy sauce, and it already smells very good. Next, we'll put the chicken breast inside and let it marinate. I have 2 thinly sliced chicken breasts. You could use whatever protein you would like to. It could be plant-based, or it could be even fish or seafood. Shrimp are very good with the teriyaki glaze, and it's up to you. The glaze goes with anything. So I will put each chicken breast submersed into the teriyaki glaze. You could use a big Ziploc baggie if you would like. I'm just using my mixing bowl, and I'm slushing the marinade over the chicken. And that will marinate while we're getting all the other ingredients together. And now I'll put the chicken marinade in the refrigerator to keep it chilled while we work on the Israeli couscous. For the side dish of pearl couscous or Israeli couscous, I call this Arabian couscous. And it's inspired by a rice dish that I grew up with. My mom used to make it, and she had told me the story of how she learned it from a friend of hers in college. And it's delicious, very simple, few ingredients. Again, it's usually made with rice, but I am going to be using the pearl couscous with a little quinoa. instead. I prefer lately to be utilizing those ingredients more than rice because their fiber and protein content is very high. That's very good for you too. So I will begin by starting with mushrooms, and this is a portobello mushroom. At the store that day it was just a big button, but you can buy the baby bellas, whatever you would like. Mushrooms are very good for you, high in vitamin D, and I will chop that. Next, I'll use an onion. I will not be using this entire very large onion. I'll probably use about a third of it. It's up to your own taste. This dish, what highlights the flavors are the onions and the mushrooms and curry spice. So if you're not a fan of onions or mushrooms or curry spice, you could either substitute something else and call it a different name, or you can not make the dish. Whenever using onions, it makes me think of my mom. And to this day, if she's cooking a dish, there are many different tastes in our family. Some people like onions, some people don't like onions. And she did always say, and continues to say, if you don't like it, you don't have to eat it. Now that I've finished chopping the mushroom and the onions, we'll begin to place the ingredients in my rice cooker. That's how I'll be cooking the pearl couscous today. I will use a fourth a cup, a quarter cup measuring cup, and we'll take the pearl couscous, which by the way has for each 1/4 a cup of serving size, it has 4 grams of fiber and 7 grams of protein. That's very good, very beneficial. It does have carbohydrates though, so you have to watch that. For 2 people, and it depends on what you consider a portion size, or if you're using it as a small side dish as opposed to a bigger portion, almost like an entree, I'm going to take 2 measuring cups. That equals a 1/2 cup total of the pearl couscous, and put it into the rice cooker. I will be using quinoa as well. You don't have to do this, it's optional. What I've found is there's so many different ways of making quinoa and different dishes. If you have a dish that is strictly quinoa based and no other starch or pasta or any other ingredient, you have to really like quinoa because it's very quinoa-y. But if you add it to another dish, you almost don't notice the quinoa. It's just very delicious, and you're getting the added benefit of what quinoa has, which again has 5 grams of protein per 1/4 of cup and 5 grams of fiber. That's a lot in this little tiny seed. So I'm going to be using a 1/4 a cup. Now we'll add the onions and the mushrooms. The liquid content, you want to double the amount of liquids for whatever you put in measuring wise for the pearl couscous and the quinoa. I will be using some low sodium chicken broth and some water. You can, to taste, use whatever type of broth you prefer, and if you want it to be vegetarian, you could go with a vegetable broth. You do want something that has good flavor, not just water. I think it needs the broth as well. So I'll be using a cup of the low sodium chicken broth, and everybody's palate is also different according to the salt content. I always buy low sodium, and then I know I can add more salt, which I will be doing. I have more control over it that way. And then I'm going to add a generous heaping half a cup of water. And that's the liquids. Now for the last ingredients. It's very important to use, for this dish, a mild curry. There is no hot, spicy flavor to it. It's just a yellow style curry, and it's up to you how much or how little. I really like it in this dish, so I'm very generous. And I'll be using about a teaspoon, if I can get it out, about a teaspoon, and I'll sprinkle it on top, like that. And then I'm going to use my salt grinder and put some salt on top. That's to taste, however much you would like or however little. Now I have butter. I will be using butter in this dish. It gives it a wonderful taste, and it also helps keep the pearl couscous and the quinoa from sticking together too much. I'll just put some of it in. I'm going to use about 2 tablespoons for this serving. And I'm just going to stir it in the pot. All of those ingredients, and it smells wonderful already with that curry and the onions and the broth. Make sure the butter stays in the pot. Now, all we have to do is turn it on, and it'll start cooking with this wonderful rice steamer. This dish will be ready in about 25 minutes, and I just will plug it in and leave it. It'll cook on its own. I don't have to tend to it or worry that it may be too hot or too cool. It cooks it beautifully just like it is. Now it's time to get the chicken going in the skillet. Turning my induction cooker on, and I'm going to heat some olive oil. We'll be cooking the chicken in the same pan as these wonderful vegetables that I have. You could use whatever you like. What I have are sliced red peppers, not spicy, and I have sugar snap peas. We won't be putting those in till later, but they will be cooked in with the chicken. So it's a 1-pot dish. I'll let that heat up. I'll grab the chicken. I just finished blotting and drying the chicken. I had the marinade that it was soaking in, and then I placed them on paper towel so they're not drenched. It'll keep from splattering as much, and we don't want it to burn. So they are blotted and patted dry. Now for the chicken, while it's cooking, you can add whatever seasoning, dry seasoning that you like. I'm just today going to use some salt and a little pepper. You could add whatever is your preference. My pepper grinder is giving me trouble. Okay. Now I'm going to turn the chicken. It looks nice and browned on one side. I'm watching the temperature and making sure that I don't let it burn. So I'm turning mine down a bit, and I'm going to start adding the beautiful vegetables into my pan and let them sear with the chicken. I'm going to put a lid on it now and let it steam a bit. That'll help the cooking process move along quicker. I'm going to check on it now. See how the veggies are doing. Oh, they look so good. Looks delicious. Very, very good. I'm going to check, make sure the chicken is, oh yeah, looking good. Now while it's still cooking, because we want it to be very done, I'm going to go ahead and put the pineapple rings on the chicken so they have a chance to cook a bit themselves. This is also excellent in a grill. Today, since it's been rainy, we have to do it indoors, but grilled pineapple, oh, it's so delicious. I'll put the lid back on. Those cherries look, it's worth the extra ingredients that are not so good for us. And then the very last step, and you want to wait till the end, is pouring that marinade that we had is now a glaze, and it'll cook with the chicken as it finishes. You don't want your temperature to be too high because all of the brown sugar and the soy sauce will get burnt. And it will darken anyway in the pan, but you don't want it to burn and taste bad. So wait until your chicken is already done, and then keep it down low. I'm going to turn mine to even lower. And then I'm going to pour the glaze on top of the chicken. And I'm also going to let the vegetables get some too. Now some types of teriyaki sauce or other sauces, people will add thickeners. Such as cornstarch. I personally have found I don't need that. I don't necessarily like mine gelatinized that thick. As long as it has the flavor, I'm fine with it being on more of the runny side. But that's up to you. It's personal preference. You can always add a little cornstarch to thicken it if you want that thick glaze. And then I'm going to cover it again and just let it steep in those delicious juices and absorb them, and it'll be ready soon. I turned the burner up again because I wanted to see the glaze very hot but not burned. So I turned it up and it's bubbling. Everything is all ready now. Oh boy, the pearl couscous is ready. You have to be very careful because it's very hot and steamy when you lift the lid. I'll set that down and now give it a toss. Beautiful. Look how pretty that is. It smells delicious and it's going to taste very fulfilling. This is like a comfort food. Now it's time to dish it up. last part. Put the chicken on top with some of those marinated, almost candied style veggies. Because of the brown sugar, the veggies will get, like I said, almost a candy texture to it. It's going to be very tasty. And then you can put some of the hot sauce, the teriyaki glaze, on top. And there it goes. And you can save whatever is left over. You can even freeze it in a small baggie and use it for pot stickers or dumplings or shrimp. For 2 people, a very hearty, delicious meal with a lot of fiber and protein. Fun part is next. We get to taste it. There are quite a few elements to this plate, so I'll start first with the chicken and the pineapple. It's hot. Delicious. Now I'll put some of the pearl couscous. Blow on it with the quinoa. I love the Arabian style dish that my mom passed on to me. That's what she called it. And it's so good. That curry, very, very satisfying. Snap peas are so bright and sweet. One of my favorites. Now it's time for David and I to have our lunch. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon.